You're listening to the Convene Connections podcast with your host, Matthew Curry.
And good evening, everybody. I am so honored to have Lisa Herring here with me tonight. Lisa, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Matt. Really happy to be here again.
Again, that's right. That's right. So you've been on a couple of times, but we've done multiple podcasts, multiple Facebook Lives, and I just have to keep bringing you on because there's so many good things happening with you that you're like our superstar, Lisa.
Oh, gosh, thank you.
Superstar. And so the topic tonight is, how you're selling your niche, whatever you want to call it, course, and how you're being successful. And we're going to get into that story and that topic tonight and really kind of get into it because really, like I said, you're one of the Convene superstars right now. What do you think about that?
Thank you. I think that's, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I feel really good about Convene. So, I'm happy that you say that, but thank you.
All right. So we're going to start back at the beginning, Lisa. Now, when I say start back at the beginning, let's go all the way back to the beginning. So when you were born, who was the president of the United States?
Eisenhower. Yep, it's true. I was born in 1956. Everybody take your calculator and do quick math about how old I am.
So, 1956, and people might be watching and saying, well, damn, he's pretty rude to ask her right off the bat.
I don't care.
How old she is. But we do a lot of calls together. And in these calls that we do together, you bring this up when we're talking about Convene because it's important to your story and your Convene story, right?
Yes.
So back at the beginning, Eisenhower was president. Let's drive this point home because we were joking and laughing about it to begin with. So some other significant things that you remember from your childhood.
Oh, wow. Well, of course, I remember President Kennedy being shot.
Yeah.
I remember when Martin Luther King was shot. These were obviously huge events. I remember exactly where I was when the moonwalk happened. I was in camp. They brought a little black and white TV with a long extension cord outside. We all sat out on the ground at camp and watched, the first man on the moon. So, and, the Vietnam War, the protests, all of that. So, that was my growing up.
Yeah. Eugene says you're still a spring chicken.
Thanks, Eugene.
Yeah. And we bring that up, right? Because when we talk about your Convene story and really your story about your course, right?
Right.
I think at first, and you've said this before, it's been a journey, creating your content, and we'll get into that. But I think at one point, you probably didn't even think that you could get to the point that you're at, right?
No, I definitely did not. Not only did I have a series of events happen when I was much younger that really led me to believe, and other people, just really not to have any expectations of what I was going to do in life or where I was going to go. I basically was kind of written off. So, that was when I was younger. And then I struggled for a long time, various life events and things were pretty rough. But I, as you know, went to work for the Social Security Administration as a claims specialist, and I loved that job. So I got to meet people from all around the world, different kinds of people. I got to help people at some of the toughest times of their lives, and really make an experience dealing with the federal government better, good, more human. And I really loved that job. Now, I don't always love the way the government does things, but I loved the job and the people. And I ended up with a situation where I just became too disabled to work.
Yeah. Let's go back real quick. I want to touch on something about that. It's a story. And like we talk about this all the time, that we all have a story, right? And that makes who we are.
Right.
But you told me this story one day when we were talking about when you were working at Social Security and disability benefits, and your coworkers going, Lisa, what are you doing?
Okay. So
Yeah.
my coworkers thought I was crazy
Yeah.
because I mean, my philosophy always has been, I guess, because of having my own struggles, that it's really important to treat people like human beings. And it's very easy in a bureaucracy and a government environment, especially when you're trying to kind of control these interviews and move people along. It's very easy to lose sight of that. And I never wanted to lose sight of that. I just wanted to treat people the way that I would have wished I had been treated when I was really having a hard time. So I just would get, people sitting across the desk from me that they would tell me some story. And then before I know it, I'm crying, they're crying. My coworkers are looking at me like, get it together. I remember vividly this one claimant I had. She came in with a friend of hers, and she had stage 4 brain cancer. And, she was bald. She had a scarf around her neck, and she was sitting there. And I was trying to think of something that I could say, because, of course, that's not a situation that you can fix or just kind of gloss over. And I just said to her, I see that you have your best friend with you here. And people come in here and they're really in tough situations. And I have a lot of people that come in here and they have nobody. When we ask them, do they have somebody, that we might have as an additional contact? And they say, no, I don't have anybody. And so I was pointing out to her, that this was such a wonderful thing that she had her best friend. And so we finished the interview, and I stood up, kind of walked them out. And she said, can I give you a hug? And I said, of course. So here we are in this long hug. And again, my coworkers just thought I was nuts. And I didn't care. I just didn't care. I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. This is where my heart is to treat people well and to treat them like human beings. So yeah. And they thought I was nuts.
That's part of what from your story, right? It hasn't always been a smooth road.
No, it hasn't. And I found myself in the situation of having to be that person on the other side of the desk and file for Social Security disability myself. So, I said to myself, well, thank God I have like good karma or whatever it is. I've treated people well. So hopefully, things will go well for me. But yeah.
Yeah. So you have a situation where, unfortunately, you are working at Social Security and Disability. Things were going great. You loved your job. Yeah, you took it serious. You made a difference in people's lives, and lo and behold, you had an accident that led you to have to go through the process yourself.
Yeah, I actually, the first accident was the worst. And I had that fairly really early on in my career at Social Security. So I had an almost fatal pedestrian auto accident. And I'm very stubborn, like a lot of my clients. And I just was like, okay, I'm going to go back to work. So eventually I did. I went back to work. And I got, fortunately working for the federal government, you get reasonable accommodation. They gave me some accommodations. And I suffered. It was hard, but I was pushing forward. I needed to work. I still had one of my kids was in college. And so I just kind of pressed on. And then a year later, I had an accident in a car sitting at a light. Somebody hit me full on the driver's side. So that set things back a bit. Again, I went back to work. But ultimately, several years after that, I ended up with a fall at work. So slippery floor, took one step inside the building, went down, and it wasn't that bad of an accident. So I kept thinking, okay, I'm going to work my way back from this one too. But it was just kind of the straw that, broke the camel's back, so to speak. And I just I hung on for a little while longer, but then I just ended up just not being able to do the full duties of my job. Yeah. So I had to file for disability. So, and that was just probably one of the worst times in my life, to face not being able to take care of myself. Maybe my adult kids are going to have to support me. That was just a horrible thought to me. Oh my God, I can't work anywhere. I can't work again. This is horrible. I love to work. And it's still true that I can't go work a regular job, but the good news is that I eventually figured out that I could do what I'm doing now as an entrepreneur, and I can accommodate myself. So I'm sitting right now, but normally when I'm helping people, I'm working out of my house, laying in my recliner, and I'm able to help veterans and first responders all around the country and feel like I have a purpose, and I'm giving a service to the people that I care about the most. So I didn't anticipate that that's the way my life was going to go. And I think that happens to a lot of people. Life takes you in a different direction. But it was really at some of my lowest points that really veterans were the people that came around me, made me feel like I wasn't, nuts. The first accident, I ended up with a diagnosis of PTSD and a TBI and, a bunch of physical stuff. But it's just kind of the place that I feel the most comfortable is with veterans and also with first responders. So first responders really saved my life. So, these are the people that I like to serve, and I like to tell them my story, because typically they're coming to me at a point that's a really low point for them, and they don't see that they have options or a future. Yeah. They've done what I did, which is push and push and push to work, and finally find themselves in a situation where they just can't. And so they feel like they failed. They feel like they're quitting, which goes against everything they were taught. And it's a very tough place for them to find themselves. So this is where I'm able to come in and support them, help them through the process. And I do that, at least in part, I do it through my course on Convene.
Yeah. So, that's what I love about this, right? And I love this about Convene, because we talk about Convene, right? The tagline, right. Real life, real people, real experience. And we talk about that everybody has a story, right? Yeah. All have a story. And then we talk about Convene, that's the what. And then we talk about the how. And that is to connect, collaborate, communicate, and educate, right? Right. And so you bring people together, and we're going to get back to that, right? But I think it's important to make people understand a little bit about what brought you to Convene. So let's talk about that really quick, because it kind of fills a gap, and it goes back to, again, we all have a story. So you heard me tell my story.
I did. And, you came down to Jacksonville, Florida. I had, just to back up a little bit, I had in my mind that I can only help a certain number of people through the one-on-one consulting that I'm doing. I have my own limitations. Time is limited. So I, for quite some time, had been thinking if I could only create a course, then my information that I have to share would be accessible with a lot more people. I mean, potentially sort of an unlimited number of people could access this information. It wouldn't just rely upon me being able to, personally speak with them in a one-on-one. So I'd had that in my mind, and really just kind of, that seemed like an overwhelming thing for me to try to do. And I'll just mention my age here again, because,
I was going to ask that.
Technology.
I was going to say, when's your birthday? What month?
August.
Oh, so it's not here yet. So I was doing some quick math. That's why
I'm going to be 65. Yeah, I'm going to be 65 in August.
64.
Yeah. Right. So, I consider myself to be somewhat tech savvy. I have a smartphone, I have a laptop, all of that. But the idea of a course and then trying to figure out a platform. So I had done some looking at some platforms, like, okay, maybe I could do it here. I will tell you, honestly, they were quite expensive.
Yeah.
And what I realized when you came down and spoke about Convene was, number one, oh my God, I could use this platform. And the things that were different about Convene. So these other platforms that I had looked at were really, you and I have talked about this and described it this way before. They're very much like a silo. Like you're in there, your course is in there, your content is in there, but then you have to go out and figure out how you're going to market it. Well, I don't know anything about marketing either. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was just like, oh God, this is just way too daunting. And then you came down and spoke, and I was very moved by your story and why you started Convene and what your mission is and what your core values are. And, I'm not going to lie, you're a Marine, I'm a Marine mom, I'm
Yeah.
already biased right there.
Exactly.
But I really appreciated your heart in talking about this, this passion that you have that's Convene to bring people together, to collaborate, educate, just really so that people can learn from each other's experiences. And of course, part of what I'm teaching people in my course comes out of my experience.
Absolutely.
So my understanding that it's painful to find yourself in this situation where you have to file for these benefits. My understanding about military mindset, and even though I didn't serve in the military, I have much that same kind of mindset, that just suck it up and keep going kind of a mindset. Yeah. So, these things are relevant, that I bring my story to bear on the content that I have in Convene. But what I realized in Convene was a number of things. Number one, you all have what I'm going to call built-in marketing. It's an environment where we are all encouraging each other. We are all trying to promote each other's content. And frankly, I enjoy that because I love the content that that the other people on Convene have as well. So built-in marketing. Also, I'm dealing with a particular population of people. And on the veteran side of things, I have a lot of clients that are military sexual trauma survivors. And one of the things that really caught my attention with Convene is that you all have a discussion board, right? So inside of my community, inside of my group, there's discussion board. And that discussion board is where people can go and ask questions and comment, about my course or ask SSDI questions, things like that. And you have a feature on Convene where they can do that anonymously if they choose. Yeah. So I've got the group of, right now I just have a veterans course. So group of veterans all taking the course, they're going at their own pace. But if somebody posts a question on the discussion board, everybody can see that, everybody can learn from that. So hence the shared learning, platform. But if somebody doesn't feel comfortable to pose that question as themselves, they can post it anonymously. And that was one of the features that I really, really liked about the platform. So
yeah, that's really cool. Because it is about, really sharing your story and asking those vulnerable questions, right? Yeah. Right. And I think that you're so right, especially military veterans. We don't like to be failures. Yep. And we often feel like we are failures, but we're not. We're not. And so it makes it really hard when you have that feeling, well, gosh, I can't work. I'm a failure, right. and I have to file for Social Security and disability benefits, right? And
right.
that process is just not easy. It's not an easy process.
No. It's not easy. And I think that, the meaning that we assign to words like disability or, if you cannot work for now, right? I always tell people, look, it's for now. Yeah. So you may end up, you probably have options that you don't realize, because I certainly didn't know that this was an option for me when I went out of work. I thought I didn't have any options. So you may have options that you don't even realize. But we tend to think about people who are disabled as people who are useless, people who don't have anything to offer. And it just couldn't be further from the truth. or that somehow disabled people have to be miserable. Yeah, you can be, able-bodied people and people without those kind of issues can be miserable too. But it's also possible to have a lot of struggles and still be happy and still create a good life for yourself. And so, I like to share that with people because, you can get to that point when you find yourself in a situation where you feel like you have failed, right? And you're useless because, of course, the military tells you if you can't do your job, you're useless. I mean, they'll just kick you out, right? You've been through that medically retired experience.
Let me expand on that, right? Many people may not know this about me because I do talk about it, but they may not know. I mean, I was at the top of my game, right? Mm-hmm. I was board selected. I was one of the first B-22 Osprey pilots to be selected to start up Fleet Squadron. So I was on this board, I was one of three. I was one of three that got selected during this board to come back and fly the V-22. So I show up, one of three. A lot of people put in for it. So I'm at the top of my game. And I'm getting ready to go to the second V-22 squadron to be the squadron weapons tactics instructor, which is the equivalent of a Top Gun. I was a weapons tactics instructor in the Marine Corps. So I was going to be VMM 162's WTI, right? It's top of my game. And one day I go on a flight and I do this, what's called a rapid ascent. So I'm doing a rapid climb followed by a rapid ascent, coming down, descent, ascent to descent. And when I come out after that, I had blood coming out of my nose. So I blew my sinuses, right? But that wasn't that was one of the things that got me retired. But what got me retired is my knees were so screwed up. I had gone through a series, I was a flight school instructor, of 7 knee surgeries. I had metal all in my knees. And so my flight surgeon and I went down to the Navy captain, who ran what was called NAMI at the time. And I literally jumped around on one knee and he was like, okay, Major Curran, I'll sign off on your waiver. And so he signed off to let me stay in the Marine Corps. And then it was time for that waiver. It was due to be re-up. And I went to see the orthopedic surgeon and he was like, Major Curran, you can't be in the Marine Corps with the type of knee surgeries that you have, with all the metal that you have in your knees. And you're getting out of the Marine Corps, you're getting medically retired. So now I'm in a situation where I'm like, holy crap.
And it's not like he gave you a hug and said, let me support you through this process.
He goes, I don't know. He said, I don't know who signed off. And I don't know who signed off on your waiver in the first place, but you can't be in the Marine Corps. Now it's crazy because there's people that are amputees that get to stay in. And so anyway, so I went through the medical process. You talking about like a smack in the face. I went through the medical retirement process. I'm a 100%, disabled veteran with the VA. 60% retired from the Marine Corps. Like I did 24 years. But you have a choice at that time, Lisa, and you had a choice too. So great. I will
tell you that choice was.
I can lay down, or I can get up and keep on pressing. And I can keep working. Yeah, just because I got medically retired, just because I'm out, I can lay down and just live off my disability, or I can keep working. And I choose to work.
And you know what? Sometimes people are in a situation where they literally cannot. They cannot. And that may last quite some time, but it's what it does to you, I think, mentally too. You get that. I mean, I'll never forget my boss calling me into the office. She said, I'm not firing you, but I'm telling you, you obviously cannot do the full duties of your job. You really should go home. You need to file for a federal disability retirement. I don't want to hear that. Yeah. I did not want to hear that.
Absolutely.
As much as I would have told other people, take care of yourself, go do this thing. When it came to me, I was like, no, not me. Because I was in a certain level of denial that because I had come back from the really bad accident, that I should be able to come back from this too. And it just was not possible. But I think what I want to say is, when I stopped, I retired in 2014. So September of 2014. And I really went through a rough patch after that for a bit, and then regrouped and, started just helping people with this information. And I did that for about 4.5 years, and I didn't charge anybody anything. I just helped any veteran or first responder that came along, few civilians as well. And but I just, the rubber hit the road at 62 from a financial standpoint. They cut your federal disability retirement a lot when you turn 62. So I was like, oh my God, I need to do something. So I just, facing the idea of charging money was just a hard thing for me. I guess it's not hard for some people, but for me, it was hard. So got myself a business coach, managed to, talk myself through that, and turned it into an LLC in January of 2019. So I was 62 years old when I started my first, and maybe this is the last, business. So why am I saying this? Not because I think I'm so spectacular. There's other people that have done this, but because I think it's easy for people to feel like, oh, I can't do that, or it's too late for me. And it's not too late, because coming on to Convene has opened a whole bunch of doors for me. And my mind has been opened up to, I have some other ideas. I've got some other possibilities, and at 64 now, that's exciting for me. That's like great. I'm like, okay, let's go. Yes, I'm late to the game. Okay, fine. But this is, some people's stories are like mine. They didn't start off well.
Well, I'll go back and say it again, and let's talk about this, because this is great, right? So you came to starting your course. Did you ever think at 62, obviously you just said it, that you would be starting a training course and selling it? And let me say a few more things. You're selling it well. Yeah. You're selling it well. You're getting paid through the Convene system on the weekly basis, and it's really good. Yeah. I'm happy.
It is. I know you are. And so am I. And so is anybody on the platform who has referred somebody to buy my course, because those people are making money too.
Exactly.
So, pardon me?
I said, because you pay a referral fee for people to refer your course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. So, there's probably people out there listening who might say to themselves, oh, I don't think I need this, right? Oh, but I know somebody who does. Jump on to Convene, become an affiliate, refer somebody to my course. I will take good care of them, and you will make money. So, that's a way to do it too. And I will tell you that at my age, the idea of being able to create, and I know maybe you don't want to go into this whole thing right now with the affiliate program, but at my age, to be able to create some, what I'm going to call residual income, right, is really a good thing. Really a good thing, because I'm not at the age where I can go start off fresh with, let me invest a bunch of money in the stock market and things like that. So that's an awesome thing for me.
Well, so this is one thing, and we'll get into that. We'll actually come back to that and talk about it. But I think this is really cool. So one of the things I love about you is that you could have sat there, and you talked about this, and stayed status quo on the disability, even though your disability got cut at 62. But you're like, wait a minute, this is not good. I need to reinvent myself, right?
Right.
I need to go out and start a course, right? And so we're going to talk about that next, is what you did to get your stuff in Convene, because I think that's important to tell about how you did that. However, you even have a bigger mindset, because you're like, you know what? I did it. And we've been talking about our coaching program that we're getting ready to happen. And so you have been talking about to me, and you've been saying that I would love to take some of these people who, yes, they have to file for Social Security and disability benefits,
right,
but that can be temporary. And they can go out and they can do what Lisa did. They can reinvent themselves, and they can, start something new. We all have a story. We all have passion. We all have something that we can really come and do great things with, right? Yep. So it's not just about, I'm going to just teach you how to do Social Security and disability benefits, but you can teach people to be entrepreneurs, and to reinvent
Absolutely.
and that's
Absolutely.
one of the things I think is the next
Yeah.
step for you with what you're doing.
Yeah, and this is somebody that was an entrepreneur already, so I don't want to act like I made them an entrepreneur, not at all. But I do want to mention Brian. So my
Okay.
friend Brian King, my dear friend Brian King, was actually my first business coach. He's the one that really gave me the confidence to move forward, to turn what I was doing into a business. So he helped me with that a lot. And after I came into Convene, I thought to myself, who else do I know, right? Who really could benefit from this platform and who the platform could benefit from,
Yes.
because I just love Convene. So I said to myself, oh my God, my friend Brian, he runs groups, he teaches, he doesn't practice anymore, but has a master's in social work.
Written
Genius guy.
5 books.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's 5 books that he's written.
I think so. Yeah. He's a genius and he just has so much to offer. And he already has a lot of content, right? So he's got the content on Instagram, on Facebook, he's written the books, all this kind of stuff. So I thought, Brian would be such a great person to head up a community on Convene that is for people with disabilities, all different kinds of disabilities. And Brian's specialty happens to be in the autism, Asperger's realm, more so in that realm, right? So he just really knows what he's doing. So now Brian's on Convene and Brian's community is getting ready to launch. I'm so happy. He's got fantastic content. He's going to be such an asset to the community. Yes. And then my friend Wendy, so Army vet, expert declutterer. She already had a little business going for herself with decluttering. She was doing, one-on-one with individual people. There's her book. We just did her book club. And Wendy is just a firebrand. I don't know how else to put it. I don't know where she gets all of her energy.
Next Thursday, it's Wendy Zanders.
Well, don't miss that because she's just incredible. And so Wendy came on the platform. I started talking to Wendy about Convene. So Wendy came on and now she has her own community, the Declutter community. And if you think that's just about organizing your house, think again. She's got a lot of stuff, which I'm sure she'll talk about. But I just love this. It's just, I know so many people that are good people that have great things to share with the world. And Convene is such a perfect place for people to do that. So make money.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me expand on this too. So Brian's community is going to be called the Wait Community. We're all in this together, and it's a community that is geared around disabilities and families and disabilities, but whatever disabilities that you might have, so the goal is to really create a community where we bring different groups together with, whether that be diabetes, whether you name it. The list goes on and on. It's going to be incredible. It's going to be a great community. They should be launching really fast in the next week or two. And then Wendy Zanders, she does so much in Convene. She's such an important part of Convene, but she has the Declutter community, which is her own personal community, but she has, she's going to be doing a homeschool group because she homeschools inside of the parenting community. And then she also has a business, Christian Women in Business in the Christian community that she's doing with Shayna. And so doing just a lot in Convene. So there's so much that can be done. And those are just 2 examples of great people that you've brought, but literally so many people can just come in and reinvent themselves. You introduced me, one that I'm so excited about, this is great. Talk about that one real quick, because this was just phenomenal.
Oh gosh. So a casual friend of mine that I had a virtual coffee with, we talked and she said, Lisa, I have somebody that I think you should meet. I said, great. I love connections. So she introduced me to Keith Reynolds. Keith Reynolds is the founder of Synapse. Synapse is amazing. So they partner businesses with nonprofits. It's kind of like a business networking thing, but they partner businesses with nonprofits for the benefit of both. And it's incredible. And their model is really literally could just be plugged into Convene.
Different hubs.
And yeah, the hubs.
Yeah.
So, and they've been looking, unbeknownst to anybody, unbeknownst to me, they've been looking really for something. They've been looking for Convene. They just didn't know they were looking for Convene. So I met these guys and I was like, oh, these people have the same heart as Matt Curran does, and really Convene would be fantastic for them. So we all got on a call and Matt talked to them and things are moving forward with them. And I'm so excited if they become part of Convene because I just think it will be huge. It will just be huge.
It was the craziest thing because we synced right up and they're talking about, tell me about their thing, their, Synapse. And they're talking about how the goal of Synapse is to allow people to tell their stories and how nonprofits a lot of times are built around stories. And they told me their stories, which, I'm all about that. We all have a story. And then, Keith goes, the real deal is that we want to bring people together to connect and collaborate. Real life, real people, real experience. We all have a story and we bring people to connect, collaborate, communicate, and educate. And so then he's got the screen behind him that has their logo and everything, same colors as Convene. And he brings that up. He goes, this is bizarre. He goes, we had the same colors, and just talking about it. And it was really awesome, to just make that connection.
It was a moment. It was a moment right there.
And
it just was.
They have hubs. They have different chapters, so to speak, in different places in the United States, and they're growing, and they have hubs. So it's like, how does that relate to Convene? Well, you have a Synapse community, and then the subgroups inside of the community are the different hubs. And so you let the hub leaders be the admins and be the group leaders. So yes, Synapse is standing over top, but you have a little autonomy of the different hubs. They call them hub honchos, which is pretty cool.
I love that.
Yeah, I did too. And so, we're meeting with them next week. It's going to be awesome. Just really kind of just taking this thing to the next level. But here's now I told you we would get back to it, right? Let's talk just briefly about the referral program, the affiliate referral program. You just told me 3 people that you brought to Convene, Wendy Zanders being a huge success.
She's a dynamo. Yeah, she's being very successful on Convene. Brian is going to blow things out of the water.
Brian's going to blow things up. If Synapse comes in, so what happens with all those people that you are connecting? Like, we are growing organically by word of mouth, through sharing our stories, through talking to people.
Right.
People are coming in and we're starting to spread like wildfire.
Mm-hmm.
And so anytime that these people come in and they go pay for something or they go to a different place inside of Convene, how you give that referral fee? Well, now they go pay for Wendy Zanders' course, and guess what? Who receives a referral fee?
Me.
Exactly.
Yeah, me. In fact, because it's more than one tier, Wendy brought her husband onto the platform, and her husband purchased Eugene's course over in Stone Eye Community Investing, right? So he purchased that course, and I got some money for that. So I didn't even have to do anything. That was really weird. Like, I didn't have to do anything at all. Yeah. And I made some money, which again is just nice. It's just nice to be able to do that. I wanted to go back to something that you mentioned, I think maybe before we got on the call. And that was that, not to talk about my age again, but, I have some challenges, right? And when I was looking at putting my course onto Convene, for me personally, and this is not necessarily true for a lot of other people, but for me personally, it was a bit daunting to actually take the course and plug it in.
Yeah.
Okay. So, by the way, I didn't create the course by myself. Obviously, the content is mine. The ideas are mine. The strategy is mine. But my friend Jessica Moody, who's a Marine Corps veteran, I just want to give her a shout out. She actually created the course for me. So, I give her credit for that.
Yeah.
But I really was not up to, at that point, really plugging it in. It just was a little overwhelming to me at that point. So Convene has this great thing where they actually have a service that you can pay for. It was very reasonable. And I paid, in this case, it was the head honcho coder on the platform to plug my course in. So for people that either might be a little bit technically challenged like me, or they just simply don't have the time, they have the content, okay, but I'm a super busy person here. I'd like to be on Convene, but I just don't really have the time to be, plugging it in. Not that it's real complicated, but maybe they just don't have the time to do it, and they just say, okay, fine, I'm going to pay Convene for that service. So just want to mention that if that's anything that is holding somebody back,
Todd Bray, who just put a little face on the emoji.
Hey, Todd. Todd's the man.
So Todd, put your stuff in it, and still, again, one of the greatest things with us is we really work with our people, right? And so
you do.
There's been some reorganization of your stuff. You've been able to kind of come in and work with Todd.
There's still something I owe Todd. Todd and I had a conversation, and we're going to tweak a little bit more, and so I need to get back with Todd. But
so he's your coach. He's your coach that you work with, and it was great because you needed a technical type coach, right? You had Lisa create your content. You needed a technical coach, which has been really a positive thing. And we'll talk about our coaching program here in just a moment. That's going to start in March 14th. I'll talk about that a little bit. But that was great. And then, so we have other people kind of that help out and that are like coaches. So, for example, Megan, who's my daughter, happens to be my daughter, but she built a lot of the content for Brian,
Right.
And so we do offer those services where people can come in and they can, if you don't think you can do it, we can help.
You can hand over your content, and Convene will help you out with that.
Absolutely. So,
or you can do it yourself. That's fine too.
And so sometimes, all right, here's what's getting ready to happen. Let's talk about, and I agree with you, Jason. Todd, you are the man. We all know that.
Yes.
By the way, Todd just created this wonderful CRM that we're launching. And so that'll be coming probably next week. You'll be able to connect out to your Google Calendar, your Outlook calendar. And I say that in a joke to Lisa, but that's another story. But again,
we have an inside joke.
We have an inside joke on that. But really excited about that CRM. When you talk about Convene as a holistic platform, it is connect. That's your CRM piece. Collaborate. We have a project management that we created for some of our business to business work. So the project management will be coming to the Convene community site. And then obviously it is a connection site within our group features, and then education site, right? So that's what you do. You teach people on it. So that's where we get to connect, collaborate, communicate, and educate and all that. So that's really, really good. So yes, we do. Go ahead.
You want to talk about the coaching thing? I was going to mention something else, but go ahead.
Well, I was going to talk about Monday night, right? If you're worried and you think, oh my gosh, I don't know how to create content. I'm not really sure about starting a business or if I can even be up to starting a business. Well, guess what we have starting next Monday night? And it is our Convene Mastermind. Many of you may have seen last week, or you might have missed it, but myself and Jason Berry. So Jason Berry is the Convene business coach, right? So he's an action coach. That's what he does for a living. He is a business coach, and he happens to be the Convene business coach. So starting next Monday night, we have what's called the Convene Mastermind. It's going to be from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And Jason will be covering business concepts for the first part. I will come in and cover the concept of how that business concept ties into Convene. And then we will have like a guest come on there like you that can talk about, hey, this is how I'm being successful tying
using it
into the community, my community, or my premier course. So really excited about that. I think that's going to be very beneficial. I'm creating a course then as a Convene coach on, if you need to do what you did with Jessica, if you need some help going through the process of creating content, I'll take you through that process, because that's what I do. I teach people how to create their content. Obviously created the site to be able to create the content.
Right.
Jason will be teaching, for example, a course on business. If you don't know, okay, I'm going into business for myself. What are some business concepts that I need to learn? He'll be coaching on that. Todd Bray will be coaching, for example, on the technical side of it. You want to be technically coaching, coach on that. So we are having, starting March the 14th, we're going to have a Convene coaching certification course that starts. So if that's something that you're interested in, because for example, like you want to teach people that, hey, you can be an entrepreneur, so that's an expansion of some ideas. So we'll have a Convene coaching program. So you will become a certified coach. You get this cool little icon by your name.
Oh my God, the logo is enough to make you want to do it.
Yeah. And we have to thank Melinda for that.
Melinda, that's awesome logo.
Yeah. So that's going to be really cool. So there's a lot of great things happening in Convene. And I just wanted to talk about that for a second, because if you don't think that you can do it, guess what?
Yes, you can.
A 64-year-old woman, and that's why we were joking that
with a brain injury, who's doing it?
Yeah, TBI and PTSD. That who was the president when you were born? I forgot again.
Eisenhower.
So that a 64-year-old, and we joke about that. So I'm not picking on Lisa, but we joke about that because you've taken this process and
anybody can do it. Honestly, anybody can do it. That's how I feel about it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Yeah. Matt, I wanted you to say something for just a moment, because I think this is also such a fantastic thing about Convene. And that is that you are like the summit guru, right? Yeah. You have done all of these summits. And one of the things I think that's so frustrating is when there's a summit, you either participate in the summit or you don't. And if you don't, you lost out, right? It's not anywhere. It's done. It's over. But Convene, it has the ability to make any summit evergreen, which I think is awesome, right? Especially, let's just say you're a person that charges something for somebody to participate in the summit. You're talking about that summit can make money over and over and over again as it lives on the Convene platform. Yeah. So I just wanted to throw that out there, because especially in this day and age of, we're talking still during COVID, where people had to go virtual, and you really have been able to help a number of organizations do these great summits and make them evergreen on Convene.
Yeah, so I'll tell you where some of this comes from is that I ask people in business, right? So if you're a speaker or you're somebody that's a trainer and you speak at conferences or did live conferences before, I would always ask people, I'd say, well, Lisa, what's your leave behind? When you go into a conference and you speak, what's your leave behind? And what I meant by that is, like, I've spoke at some big conferences, 600, 800 people in the room. People are coming up to me afterwards and like, I'm the greatest speaker that they've ever heard, right? So excited, ready to, just love what I have to say.
Yep.
3 weeks from after the conference, they've forgotten who I was, because they've gone back to work. They've gotten into their job. They're moving on. So what's your leave behind? And so that's the same thing about a summit, right? And now, whether that be a live summit or whether that be a virtual summit, is if I bring people to my summit and we go through a summit, we all leave there. We're excited. We think that the information is great. We're ready to go break down walls, afterwards. We have to have a leave behind. And that's what Convene brings to the table. We're able to bring together that evergreen content, that leave behind, where when I'm up there and I'm speaking, I say, hey, if you like what you were talking about today, let's continue the conversation. And you can do that by going to my Convene group or my Convene community or whatever it is. And I've done that with Intersect. I've done that with the 108 Challenge. I've done that with so many different organizations now. It's one of my pivots that I've made during COVID, where I've helped these organizations do live summits online. And then we take that content and we turn it into either free content or we turn it into, payable content where they can still make money off of it. Intersect being a great example of that. And so it's been really a great pivot but you need that lead behind. It's not just about having the summit. It's about what comes after. Now, the key thing is this. I can take the content, and comes from Wendy Sanders, right? I can take the content and I can be part of. Now we can take the content, we can post it in a site where people can go watch the video and see that. That's only half the story. If it's not a site where I can network, I can meet other members, I can interact in discussion boards, then I'm missing 50% of the story, right? And so that's what, Wendy and I had that conversation a couple of weeks ago. She was part of a summit, and now you need to take that summit and you need to bring it into a collaborative site. Does no good. It does no good if we
park it on a website and that's it. Yeah. This is a good lead in terms of your conversation with Wendy next week, because Wendy and Brian and I got on a call and started the beginnings of a collaboration on a summit for empowering parents of special needs kids. Yeah. So you might say, well, what does Lisa have anything to do with that? My little piece of that is going to be that I was trained on SSI benefits, which are for kids with disabilities. Yeah. So I have some resource information for parents that, I'm happily going to give, right? Yeah. But Brian and Wendy, I was so happy to introduce the two of them. So they're going to really collaborate on this. I'm so excited what this summit is going to look like. I think it's going to be fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah, I can't wait for it. It's going to be awesome.
And it'll live on, and families will be able to continue to benefit from it.
Yeah. And listen, I want to say this. I don't have to be involved. Convene doesn't have to be involved. I mean, we're the resource to house it afterwards. Right. I don't want people to be confused. And I think that's awesome, right? I love to host. I love to facilitate. That's all good. But you don't have to have Convene involved to facilitate or be part of it. It's just where you can house it.
It's just where you can house it and make it evergreen.
A summit, and do it. Bring it, house it and Convene. I don't want people to think, well, Matt has to be involved. No, that's not the case. So that's cool to me that you guys, are out there planning and doing all that. That's what this thing is supposed to be. It's supposed to just grow and grow and grow, which is really cool. So, all right, we have about 8 minutes left. If you have any questions that you want to ask.
You want to ask anything about President Eisenhower? Yeah. I don't know. I was pretty young. I don't know if I can remember.
I wasn't even born then. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there.
This I know. What do you remember from your childhood, those big events?
What do I remember?
What would be the things that stand out?
I would go with big events, like if you want to kind of relate. I remember the space shuttle when it blew up.
Yep. Okay, definitely.
That was huge. That was like a huge one. I mean, because we would watch it in school. And
that was terrible. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that's probably, if I go back, that's probably the biggest one. I remember when Reagan was shot. That was a big deal when Ronald Reagan was shot. That's another big one. Obviously, the biggest one of my life was 9/11, and I was a Marine. And the reason why that's such a huge one is because I was on leave getting ready to deploy, and I knew exactly where I was going. So that was the one that really is the biggest,
Yeah, you and General Mattis. I always like to point that out.
Yeah, so I went and planned it with General Mattis, so that was really a highlight. So cool. That is really cool. The more I think about it, the cooler it is, It's one of those things where being locked in a room with General Mattis planning the whole thing and executing is,
it's amazing. When are you going to write your book, dude? You need to write your book.
I actually have a meeting. With two people. I have two meetings, interviewing a couple of people. One lady, we'll see if I'm supposed to meet with her tomorrow. And then I have a meeting next week with a lady that I know really well. And she wants to help me, but she is like the lead editor for a book publisher. And so she's never really written a book, but she's a great writer, but she's the lead editor for all the books. I'm
happy to hear this is happening. This is good.
So we're pushing to that. But now you don't know this, but in this book, I think, I can't remember if Wendy knows this, but I know Jason knows this, but the goal is to have multiple chapters in the book that are written by people like you. So you'll have a chapter in the book.
Okay.
I'll ask Wendy to have a chapter, Eugene, Jason.
I'm very honored. Thank
We'll
you.
go with
That's
some of
great.
the main people in Convene to this point, and have you tell your story, because that's very important, right?
Now, when we do the book club, Matt, is it us interviewing you? You get to be in the hot seat.
Exactly, you can run that one, and I'll just be in the hot seat for that one.
Okay, that's
So it's going to be good. I think it's going to be a lot like, again, one of the things I love about book clubs and Wendy's. Wendy's is a great example, because at the end of chapters, her chapters, she
asks questions. She
So-
really makes you think.
So the idea would be is that, as we're going through the book and we're talking about Convene and we're talking about your stories, that you have a place, where people can start writing their story. Because again, let's go back to talk, this is how I'm glad look at you. You didn't even know you were segueing into this.
I didn't.
One of the things about it is you have a story, Lisa, that has led you to teaching people how to file for their Social Security and disability benefits. And you are able to do that with empathy and understanding, because guess what? You had to do it.
Been there.
Yeah. You didn't even know when you were working there that you were going to have to go through the process.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah. And so that story is what has brought you to where you are. There are so many people out there with a story. There are so many people out there with what has led them down this path, and that have so much to offer other people. Now, what I think people don't really, a couple of things. They don't understand that our stories intersect. They don't understand that we're not walking this path alone.
No.
You think
we're not
alone. I'm all alone. Nobody else is going through this. Until you get out there and you figure out that there's a lot of people going through what you're going through, and that did you ever think that you would have this many clients?
No.
Did you ever think that you would be selling this many courses within Convene?
No.
No.
I mean, I hoped I would. And I think I knew that there was a real need for what I do, but, I've never engaged in formal marketing. I've just sort of organically talked about what it is I do, somebody will just see me talking about it. Maybe somebody's going to see this interview tonight and go, oh, maybe I should talk to her, or I know somebody that should talk to her. So it's just kind of happened that way. But I will say what Convene is allowing me to do is to help way more people than I would otherwise have been able to help just on my own, talking to people one-on-one. And that's a wonderful thing. So let's say at some point I'm not here anymore, maybe the course lives on and people can still get helped that way. So not to sound morbid or anything like that, but we all kind of hope that something that we do lives on and is helpful and useful to people. So,
well, Jason Berry, to your point, will say that you have to think past yourself.
Right. Legacy wise, right?
Exactly. And so what do I think for Convene? I hope Convene is going long past Matthew Curran doing Convene. That's why my son Braden is so involved in it, right?
Right.
Because, I hope that this is something that Braden can take and run with one day, and that it's his thing. And, I'm just talking about my book or whatever, All right. So we're up at the end of this. I really, really appreciate you being a part of Convene, being a part of this. I hope people listening, come join us on Monday night. You can find out more information about the Convene Mastermind at convenecommunities.com. Refer it out, get a commission off that. Yep. If you refer somebody, you'll get paid $40 for everybody you refer. So yeah.
Anybody needs details on that, talk to me, talk to Matt, talk to anybody on the Convene team. We can explain to you how that works.
Exactly. So look, as always, like, we're growing something special, and we're growing something special because we're a family. Really, we are a huge family within Convene. We're doing good things. We're making a lot of difference in people's lives, but we're looking to grow, right? So come talk.
Looking for good people. We're
Absolutely.
looking for good people.
All right. So you get the last word. Tizo, as always, thank you. We'll see you next Thursday with Wendy Zanders, everybody. Wendy Zanders is going to be a good one.
Don't miss that. Don't miss that.
Exactly.
She's awesome. Yeah.
It will not be me interviewing Wendy. I don't even know if Wendy knows this, but it is Braden's 24th birthday. It could be. There's a chance that I might be doing something with my son on Thursday night, but we might not be. So there's a 50-50 chance it's me, or it could be somebody else like Jason Berry or Eugene Brown or one of the other people interviewing you, Wendy, but we'll go. All right. So take us out of here. You get the last words.
Talking to me?
Yeah, you get the last word.
I get the last words. Join up with Convene. That's my last words. Join up. Come join us. It's a wonderful, wonderful place to be.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right. Thank you, Lisa. As always, you're
Okay.
wonderful, making great
Thank
things
you.
happen. And I can't wait to just keep growing this with you.
Yep.
Thanks, Tizo. All right. Take us out.